Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna. Good morning. So we continue with this thematic series of Bhagavatam lectures centered on and for you, I chose the same chapter. And today is text number 4. And I chose this, I repeat, Canto 4, Chapter 16, text number 4. And I chose this because, really, in one sense, the core job description of a leader is to there's really nothing else. It may take different shapes. To go from podcasting to administration through to troubleshooting, whatever functional leadership you perform, but it's all centered on dharma. And so it's very strong here. You'll see the Sanskrit speaks about dharma 3 times. Okay. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Esha Dharma Britam Shreshto Lokam Dharmenu Vartayan Setunam Shashta Tat Paripantinam Esha Dharma Britam Shreshto Lokam Dharmenu Vartayan Gupta Cha Dharma Setunam Tat Paripantinam. Vaishnavis, Esha, this King Prithu, Dharma Pritam, of persons executing religious activities. Shrishtaha, the best. Lokam, the whole world. Dharme, in religious activities. Anuvartayan, engaging them properly. Gupta, the protector. Cha, also. Dharma Setunam, of the principles of religion. Shasta, the chastiser. Tatparipantinam, of those who are against religious principles. Translation: this king, Maharaj Prithu, is the best amongst those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles and give those principles protection. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. By Srila Prabhupada. The duty of the king or the head of the government is described very nicely in this verse. It is the duty of the governmental head to see that people strictly follow a religious life. A king, in other words, an atheistic or godless government should never be supported by a king or governmental chief. That is the test of good government. In the name of secular government, the king or governmental head remains neutral and allows people to engage in all sorts of irreligious activities. In such a state, people cannot be happy despite all economic development. However, in this age of Kali, there are no pious kings. Instead, rogues and thieves are elected to head the government. But how can the people be happy without religion and God consciousness? The rogues exact taxes from the citizens for their own sense enjoyment. And in the future, the people will be so much harassed that according to Srimad Bhagavatam, they will flee from their homes and country and take shelter in the forests. However, in Kali Yuga, democratic government can be captured by Krishna conscious people. If this can be done, the general populace can be made very happy. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksharum Militam Hin Shri Guru Namo. Namo Vishwabadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. King Preto was the king, and so he had this executive functions, executive power, executive duties. So we can certainly take some ideas, some principles, some guidelines, but of course it's not exactly one-to-one leadership in ISKCON and leadership like Preto Maharaj or an executive head of government, because leadership doesn't have this act shasta tat paripantinam. He will also be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. We don't have Hare Krishna jails. One reason is perhaps it will be overflowing. No, we don't do those things. We don't, when you show around Gita Nagari, this is the cowshed, this is the restaurant, this is the temple, this is the jail, this is the torture chambers. Fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have those functions of punishment. In fact, the maximum we can do, even in cases of, say, child abuse, the only thing we can distance ourselves from the culprit, right? We just say, okay, this person cannot come to the temple anymore, cannot work anymore, in touch with children, or cannot visit anymore, and so on and so forth. But that's all we can do. The punishment aspect is retained by the government institutions. That's all we can do. And of course, it's already some kind of power which is given. The governments of the world generally recognize the fact that a religious group can ban someone from their group. Especially in America, the legal precedent that they don't get involved in religious disputes, theological disputes. So if we say, or any other day, we don't want this person to visit our temple. Yesterday we were discussing with Dhruva Prabhu the signs at the entrance of Gita Nagari. I don't know if you noticed, but on one side there is written, Gita Nagari Eco Farm, all are welcome. On the other side, same gate, on the other side is written, private place, entry only. What's that? What's the formula? Only by appointments. And he was explaining that you need that to, it's a legal requirement. Because once they went to the sheriff, there was somebody disturbing, and the sheriff told, you got to say that this is private property, otherwise people will take it as government land, and they were kind of free to roam around. But if you say it's private, then you can like ask them to leave like that. But I hope nobody gets blocked at the gate. Should I go and say, I don't have an appointment? Dharma is like that. There are, what do you call, pravritti nivritti. There are things we need to do, practices that are recommended, even mandatory for certain standards, and practices which are prohibited. Hmm? Just like initiation. The vow, one, what we will not do. It's just the nature of life in this world. So, Dharma Britam, and Ritu Maharaj will be the Shrestha, the best of those executing religious activities. Then, Lokam Dharme Nuvartayan, he will engage everyone in doing Dharma. And we will see that sometime he will force, like we'll see in the next chapter, how Prithu Maharaj milks the earth planet. He detects that the citizens were starving, but they were not lazy. It was like a problem. The earth was withdrawing its her gifts. So Prithu Maharaj, even though the earth appeared in front of in a form of a cow, the earth is a goddess, Bhumi Devi, but appeared in the form of a cow, because in Vedic culture, cows attract sympathy, attract empathy. She came in form of a cow and said, but Prita was very strict with her and said, look, either you give your gifts of grass and fruits and vegetables, otherwise I'll cut you into pieces and I'll feed the people with your flesh. I mean, for a Vedic king to say that, it's a lot. Etunam. He will be the protector of the principles of religion. So, as I said in the beginning, leadership in ISKCON revolves around Dharma. Ideally, leaders should practice Dharma, practice their vows, both externally and internally, cultivate the Vaishnava, and externally practicing the norms, guidelines of Bhakti Yoga, and then work to protect the dharma, sometime in a particular place. Could be a temple, could be a restaurant, it could be a zone for those who are zonal supervisors. It could be C area for those who are GBCs. And of course, GBC have this dual, their area and also the whole world, right? The ultimate managing authority of the entire, Srila Prabhupada used, the will uses this expression, the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So there's that dual duty. Many of them have a local duty, not all, so territorial responsibility, but also global responsibility through legislations and other interventions. So we are all about dharma, individually, collective, and leadership means take one aspect of dharma, one aspect, or territorially, or in terms of field, a particular subject, and work on that. Vaishnavi ministries, we have two representatives, two. too, right? Dharma. And of course, because in this planet, men and women are on the same place, so they also educate men how they should deal with women, right? Okay. So this is the basic job description, the basic role of a leader. Any question on that? I have another part of the class, but any question on that? No? Very good. Next, I want to focus on this concept. Srila Prabhupada says that rogues and thieves are elected to head the government. And Srila Prabhupada famously said multiple times, speaking about democracy, he said democracy. We all have heard. I mean, anybody here never heard this expression, democracy? Huh? Okay. He said it yesterday. I looked it up. He said it at least 13 times. At the same time, he also said things like this. In Kali Yuga, democratic government can be captured by Krishna conscious people. If this can be done, the general populace can be made very happy. So I would like to focus on this because sometimes devotees get the impression that Srila Prabhupada was absolutely against, and he was absolutely supportive of monarchy, which is also not a fact. So sometime back, I don't know if anybody of you noticed, it's about 3 years ago, I wrote an article published in ISKCON News, Monarchophiles of the World Unite. Monarchophiles means those who love monarchy. Pedophiles, monarchophiles. Because there are apparently devotees who I believe they have some sort of morbid attachment for monarchy, and they actively speak that we should go back to monarchy and so on. There are devotees. I know. I've seen them. They exist. So what I was saying in this article is how Srila Prabhupada, yes, he extols the glories of monarchy. For instance, he says in a lecture in Vrindavan 76, formerly everywhere all over the world the monarchy was prevalent. Even up to date, some of the countries they're maintaining monarchy, but only in name actually. The monarch has no power. We see this different countries in Europe where there's still this in Holland and Denmark, Norway, they have monarchs, but they don't have actually any political power. So, Srila Prabhupada says, so monarchy is good so long the king is as ideal as Bharat Maharaj, Rishabhadhev, Maharaj Yudhishthir, Maharaj Parikshit, Lord Ramachandra. So, Srila Prabhupada introduces the concept of interdependence. Monarchy is good if the king is good. His monarchy is not good, absolutely. Because if the king has an absolute power and is bad, then it's very bad. Like we see, there are different dictators in the world that have been and there are. Sometimes they create a huge disaster for the citizens, for the country, because they have real power. They have real power, but they're also really bad. At least in democracy, The citizens have a choice. They give a chance to this person. In some places, 4 years, some places, 5 years, depending on the constitution. And then they see if they like how they're working, they can reconfirm. Otherwise, they vote by the else. And not only that, because the rulers know that there will be elections coming up, they have somewhat behave or they have to somewhat do something good, at least to be reelected. They may not be their what they call their sattva guna, or they may not be their primary motivation, but they have to perform to some extent. Dictator doesn't have to perform because nobody is going to. I mean, nobody they can't, but they have to violently remove, like Putin in Russia. They have this sort of fake elections, and he always gets elected. And it's a farce. Huh? So unless they remove him physically, violently, then he will keep killing his own citizens in some useless war. So now, democracy is bad. Democracy is bad because you have people who are unqualified and they choose their own rulers. And this is recognized in Western culture, at least since Plato, the Greek philosopher. Plato complained that democracy follows citizens' impulses and were typically run by fools. So Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during the Second World War, he said, the best argument have a chat with the man or the woman in the street, you realize that they don't know anything. They just don't understand anything about geopolitics, about finances, what to speak about ethics. They just don't know anything. So how this person will vote? You might have seen some of the YouTube videos in which people go and ask geography questions. It's not just me, okay? You too, okay, okay. I don't know if I should be relieved or more preoccupied, but okay. So I remember one, for instance. So what do you think about Iran? No, what do you think we should do? We should bomb it. We should bomb it. And then they have a map of the world. They say, "Can you show me Iran?" Yeah, and they show Australia. There was another video. They show a map of the world to a lady and say, "Can you tell me the name of any country of the world?" It's a certain count, under 96. So, yeah. And she looks at the map. She cannot name even one country of the world. Finally, she said, Africa. Of course, that's not a country. I'm sorry. So, really, and I don't want to dismiss the goodness that's in the heart of people, but people very often, they don't really know anything. So, what kind of choices will make? What kind of choices? Sometimes the choices are very bad anyway, but then what kind of choice, on what basis? And in fact, especially in this country, I mean, this is an election here. Observers, political journalists, they understand, they analyze. It's mostly emotional, mostly emotional. They don't really, people don't study the data of employment or this or that. They just, and they like somebody, they don't like somebody, they have pet, a pet idea. So we thank very much Madan Gopal Prabhu for his very precious contribution to the GBC College. He has to leave a little early. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Madan Gopal Prabhu. So, at the same time, Winston Churchill also said, "No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time." It's the worst form of government besides all the rest of the form of government. Because you got to have a government. The only to have a total anarchy, to have like an ongoing civil war, neighbors with guns. I mean, in this country, neighbors have guns anyway. But I'm just saying, neighbors with guns will shoot each other. No, this is my cow. No, this is my land. This is my this. Just a total breakdown of civilization. So you need to have somebody who governs the country, extract taxes, builds roads, because things can degenerate very, very quickly. The infrastructure, unless somebody takes care, cooling. You can see in the countries which are more, more dangerous and more problematic, like Congo, the first thing that suffers is education. Because not an urgent thing to put schools. They buy guns, they buy bombs, they don't establish schools. So we need somebody who rules the country. Um, in Mumbai, it said, if you can make the people Krishna conscious, everything will be taken care of automatically because the democracy is there. So if they vote for a Krishna conscious person to become president and prime minister, then everything will be saved. So that means you have to create the voter Krishna conscious. Then everything will be all right. That should be one of your aims, the Krishna conscious movement. The government is under the control of the public. That's a fact. If the public becomes Krishna conscious, naturally the government will be Krishna conscious. There's a there's a conversation in New Vrindavan in 1969. I find it very interesting because it's a discussion on who has the power in New Vrindavan. So there is Hayagriva, there is a Kirtananda Swami, there is Srila Prabhupada, and there's different possible arrangements, right? So at one point Hayagriva says, Srila Prabhupada says, well, make a council, discuss things. Huh? And Agriva gives an example. Look, who is in charge? If I say, don't cut this tree, and Kirtananda Swami say, cut it, gets cut or not? And then Srila Prabhupada said, well, discuss, make council. Maybe he becomes president, you become secretary, maybe your wife can become something, make a council. And then Agriva starts arguing with Srila Prabhupada, says, council, but this is democracy, this is not good. And Srila Prabhupada says, but this is the age of democracy. Monarchy is not, it's not anymore, it's not anymore. Hmm? This this letter to Rupanuga, not our Rupanuga, but in 74, um, Srila Prabhupada says, you simply educate the people in this Krishna conscious philosophy, and then there will be no difficulty in capturing the government. In your country, there is very good system of democracy. This is the same person who said in private, democracy. Which brings us to a different and deeper issue that sometimes in complex matters, as a moment we tend to oversimplify things, or we tend to lock our understanding into something that Srila Prabhupada said, which Srila Prabhupada said, but he said so many other things. And so sometimes you get devotees, you speak about these topics, okay, how the country should be governed, and they just say democracy. But that's not the full picture. And the danger that we develop a bumper sticker culture. We go by slogans, we go by memes, and sometimes we misrepresent, we misunderstand the founder Acharya, and we misrepresent him. Which he said, maybe in private, in a particular mood, maybe a mood of frustration, and so on. And then we take it as the statement, which is not. So this is a danger for a movement, for any movement, because especially there are complex realities. You see, there are certain short sentences which are but also complete and comprehensive. Like for instance, if you say Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Kevalam. Kalam Shteva, Nashteva, Nashteva, Gatira. It's perfect and complete. Right? It's not, you can't just no, it's like that. You can't get perfection unless you chant the holy names in this age. Even theologically, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Mayavadi, Krishna Paradi. So we are not against sutras. We are not against sutra, but should be the right sutra. So when we come to complex issues like sociology or politics, we see that they are governed by general principles, but they are also guided by the principle of interdependence. In other words, if the king is good, monarchy is good. If the king is bad, monarchy is worse than democracy. So we need to be careful in just taking stands on complex things because we may misrepresent the movement. We may become irrelevant in the dialogue on those issues. Imagine you're invited to a TV show. So what's your idea, Hare Krishna idea of politics? Demon crazy. It's not true. It's true, but not true at the same time. It's true in the sense that, yes, it's a bad form of choosing your leaders. And it gives a room for very unqualified people, very exploitative people, very immoral people to capture the power. At the same time, of all the systems we have available, what do you want? A dictator or a monarch? We have seen we are actually we are just seen. I mean, just meaning this is Maharaj Prithu. Just before Maharaj Prithu was Maharaj Vena, was very bad. He had this absolute power, but it's so bad that the Brahmanas, although generally non-violent, just killed him. So that's called interdependence. If something that way, like Srila Prabhupada say, for instance, the first canto, Shudra should not bank money, should not be independently, economically independent. But that is only when the master is very protective, is very caring. Otherwise, they get exploited, they get enslaved. So this applies to other things, like yesterday we were talking with Nanda Braja about centralization. You heard, how many of you heard that Srila Prabhupada said, do not centralize anything? How many of you never heard this? So you all heard. And Srila Prabhupada did say that he was talking about a very particular, radical, extreme form of centralization that Jayatirtha and others were trying to impose on this country. They were saying every temple go, collects, and all the money is centralized. And then the leaders of the country will will decide who gets the money. Dallas. Like that, you know. No, Srila Prabhupada said no. And they wanted to create a corporation, umbrella, they would call it umbrella. And Srila Prabhupada said this umbrella will go crack. And later on, for instance, with the Robin George case, which which I believe everybody is somewhat familiar, the leaders explained that Srila Prabhupada was right. If we had a situation like that, we would have lost all the temples. We would have lost all the temples. Instead, we had only to kind of instead only the temples where Robin George was living under attack and so on. So these are complex matters. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says sometimes you need to centralize. For instance, the BBT. Srila Prabhupada explained why. Because if every temple has to publish its own books, translate the books, publish own books, that will not happen. Imagine if Gita Nagari, with all the things they're doing, they also have to publish their own books. So there are certain functions in a society, like ISKCON, which needs to be centralized because individually cannot be done. Srila Prabhupada, for instance, in the early 70s, he centralized Gurukula in Dallas. Because if you leave, say, a project like Gurukula to every temple will not have the priority. They may not have the teachers. They may not have the rooms. They're just not qualified. So at one point in Dallas, there were under 50 children from different parts. Now, we may discuss about that experiment, how valid or invalid or partially valid was. That's a different issue. But certain things, when there is a function that not every temple or every individual can perform, and that needs to be done collectively. It's just the fact of life. So these are some considerations on these topics. If anybody likes to question or share or reflect or make a political statement on whom we should vote. Yes. Do we have a mic? No. Okay, please speak loud and clear.
Thank you. I wanted to clarify a little bit about monarchy.
Ah,
What we refer to, at least the tribes, in ancient times, the constitutional order. That means that it's not based on lineage, it's not based on tribe. This is good. Can you hear?
yes. I can. I don't know if our devotees in Zoom can, but I may repeat the essence. So try to repeat the essence.
you see that people can go right to the palace, playing but anything, without fear of um, attack or in prison. They criticize the government. The government has to look upon it. Um, and but even though the system seems to work, what I heard is that it doesn't work very well. As for the suitors, the system would be more socialist or communist. That's they're not intelligent enough to procure for themselves. As you were saying, they get intoxication and prostitution. So the government should do it because they have actually by work. And the right is also communism will work for them, not a monarchy. They have to have some sort of capitalism because they're ambitious and greedy. So they are allowed certain leniencies in them uh, do business and cheat each other if they need to. But their compromise is that they have to eat because of society, produce food. And for Kshatriyas, again, neither capitalism nor communism should work. It will have to be monarchy, constitutional monarchy, because they're very powerful and there has to be someone like him but stronger to keep him under control. However, for Brahmanas, neither of those systems would work. So there has to be anarchy, although you would describe anarchy as a bad thing. As far as the statement concerns religious government is better than atheistic government. We have to look at or the Sharia law, which doesn't seem to, it's more quote unquote outright than atheistic governments, but it's actually based on cruelty and exploitation. So maybe you can give your comment. What is
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you're pointing out the genius of the Varnashram system because Varnashram, and by Varnashram, we mean the whole society arrangement, it's not just trying to impose one of the four basic approaches to government or society. As you said, anarchy in colloquial parlance means chaos, but it is a system of a political system. And we see, for instance, when Shukadeva Goswami arrives, when Maharaj Parikshit decided to fast till death, we see that they just recognize it. There is no voting, there's not election. No, vote for Shukadeva, vote for Narada, no, vote for Vyasa. They just recognize, yeah, he's the most realized. They know physiognomy. They see this is this realized soul, and we want to listen from him. True. So the Brahmanas, ideally, if they are Brahmanas, real honest Brahmanas, they will follow the one who has most knowledge. And as you said, yeah, the Kshatriyas are impassioned. They need diplomacy. They need intrigue. They need ambition. They have ambition. They have this aspiration for territory, for command. They have this Ishvara Bhav, which is portion of society need to have. But it needs to be tempered. It needs to be mitigated by dharma. And so Srila Prabhupada, even in that conversation in New Vrindavan, he was saying that yeah, but it was even in the Vedic time was some sort of democracy, which you expressed uh, perhaps in a non-technical way, in the sense that it was a constitutional monarchy, in the sense that the Kshatriyas, if they were civilized and pious, they would listen to the Brahmanas. In other words, the Shastra, Brahmanas knew more Shastra than the Kshatriya, and they will advise according to Dharma. And if the king was pious, they will listen. And so a religious society. When Srila Prabhupada say we need to have a religious country, obviously he was not talking about religious fanaticism or some sort of militant, violent religious government. He's translating religion, he's translating dharma as religion. So it's not just because somebody is a religious person, then, oh, okay, then it's heaven on earth. Thank you for pointing that out. Because religion can be done in the three modes of nature. There's religions in Sattva Guna, there is religions in Rajaguna, and religion in Tamaguna. And of course, if religionists in Tamaguna capture the government, they may kill or the people who don't practice that religion, or may they impose very harsh punishments on just anybody, any opponent, or any people want to think of it. As you said, Vaishyas live in some sort of capitalism to make money. So that's their dharma. They're the stomach of society. They have to produce goods. They have to produce food. Krichi, Goraksha, Vanijam. That's their duty. That's their dharma. But again, if they're pious, they will also share this wealth. They'll build temples. They will support brahmanas. They will do that. Again, the interdependence. If you just make money for yourself, that can be hell, just like we see. People want, and they produce products which are bad for society, but then they pay lobbyists in the capital of the country, in this case, Washington, D.C. They have armies of lobbyists. And so the rulers vote or approve or tolerate things that are good for these people to make money. And so you have cigarettes. Everybody knows that cigarettes brings cancer. I mean, it's written in the packet. In US, it's written in the packet. Okay. I didn't buy any cigarettes while I was here, so everybody knows it's on the packet, but it's approved by the government. Why? First of all, they get taxes, and second, because the lobbyists they have the parliament in their pocket. And thank you for pointing. Shudras live in socialism, live in communism in India. In fact, the British, what they had to do to rule the country, actually break out the agrarian setup. Some scholars describe the setup of the villages as mini republics. People will have their own little subji garden and things, but the land, the big land for rice and grains, went to the village. Yes. So thank you. And that's the genius of the Varnashram. That is a system given by God. God knows the nature of people, so people can operate in different according to different parameters because they have different natures. We have Namaras Prabhu. We have three questions, but I don't know. Please, questions. Okay. Yes, there is a reason. You want to know the reason? Okay. Because that technically was not part of the quest, but okay. So, look, this is the history. I don't know if I will get to the other questions, but or comments. See, you all heard about this document, 1970, Directional Management, DOM. You heard about it? So it's a very particular document because Srila Prabhupada, in that document, it's about July 1970, he establishes GBC. It's a very particular document because the initial part and the final part of the document, Srila Prabhupada speaks in the first person. He says, I'm old, 70-year-old. It's a time that I'm paraphrasing. It's time to delegate leadership. So I want to do a committee, a group, a council, a body that will take care of everything. Then he says sannyasis will not be in the GBC. I'll do another body, BBT, which should be separate for the books. And then he says, towards the middle, he says, my disciples have met and they are proposing the following. And then the voice shifts to the third person. He includes the decisions of the devotees, saying, okay, the GBC will be voted by the vote of the temple presidents, like that. So it's a document. Those parts were not written by Srila Prabhupada, but it's a fact that Srila Prabhupada accepted it. But historically, it's also a fact that he never applied it. He never applied. That was in 1970. Srila Prabhupada was, of course, with us for more than 7 years, and he never applied that. And then he superseded that by saying, the famous 28 May 77 conversation, they asked, how do we make GBCs? The committee came to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, by the votes of the existing GBCs, there will be new GBCs. Now, my purport, if we can ask, you say purpose. See, at the moment, personally, I'm not against some sort of what do you call survey on what the devotees would like and this and that. At the same time, we're really not do on that level. We're still juggling just the concept of membership. We have a membership, but many devotees don't even know that we have a membership. Do you know how you become a member of ISKCON? Do you know? No. Just just be around. Huh? What? Sorry. You go to iskonconnection.com or .org. You click and you become a member of ISKCON. So this is the Mahaprakash, the great revelation for today. Jai. Grantara Shima Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Jaya Krishna Bhakti Viveka. Jaya Guru Shara Guru Bhakti